see, what do we got here? Looks like some type of Russula or Lactarius. It's funny, I gotta put my hand in a way to keep that from being so bleached out. Let me see something here. That's some variety of Lactarius, even though it's not really putting off much of a latex or milk when I cut it. It has a light spore print. I'm not really sure what that one is. There's a couple that come to mind, but I'd have to look at that a little closer. That's why it's, you know, a good idea to bring your field guide with you. If you have some idea what the mushroom might be as far as genera like Lactarius or Russula, then you can quickly turn to your field guide right there in the woods and look up that family of mushrooms and see if any edible species fit. But there's quite a few Lactarius with a cap that's colored like that, and with the amount of rain we've had, the actual cap color might be lighter than what it appears. And when it comes to Lactarius, I think there's only two that I really find on a regular basis, and that's the voluminous milky that bleeds a lot of white milk, and also the hygrophorus milky, which also bleeds a lot of milk. They're both good edibles. I've found a few Lactarius thionos or deliciosus, or I believe it's deuterimus. There's a few that are closely related, but they're an orange colored mushroom, and they're pretty distinct. I'd actually have to go back through my book and look up the characteristics just to be sure, but I don't find much other than those two that I mentioned. Shaggy manes are out right now too, big time, so if you want to give those a try, now's the time to go looking. They grow in the grass and lawns, but you got to be careful not to pick them from places that are polluted with pesticides and herbicides. And what I'll do is I just look at the grass. If I see a bunch of broadleaf plantain growing, or a lot of clover or other broadleaf plants, then I know that it's not very likely that they have sprayed that with any kind of pesticide or anything for a while. That's about all you can really do. I suppose you could do some research into it and try and find out if an area has been sprayed or not in its entire history, but good luck finding that information, because it's really not documented very well. And being this is Michigan, who knows what could be in the ground. Waterman. Gate lift. Exeter, California. Little bitty dam to make all of that. Free source of energy. Well, not free, but maybe less costly. Yeah, rain's coming down pretty good now. I can just imagine how clear the video is. My camera's probably focused on a raindrop and that'd be a bit of a long shot, I think, but camera. I figured I'd boogie over to these trees and get out of the rain, but it quit raining by the time I got over here. This is that time of year when you can, well, it's kind of screwed up here in Michigan. The weather is odd. I mean, we had a extremely cool August, and now we're having another extra cool September. Normally this would be more like October, November weather, except things wouldn't be nearly as green. But these storms just come in out of nowhere. You might just get a really big storm, you might get an all-day rain, and it just seems to be happening daily. Ever since July finished. July was extra hot and humid with almost zero rain, which killed out all the tomatoes and stuff. And then when August came, it just cooled right down, just like somebody turned off the switch. Somebody forgot to pay the heat bill. You know, walk out in the woods and stuff, and it's kind of hard to find a truly wilderness area around here, but you get out here and you see something like this and it's like, what in the world is this? A square patch of sod that it looks like somebody planted this here. What is this? I'm gonna have to take a closer look at this. I didn't bring my tripod with me. That's weird, that sounds hollow. That is hollow, and it's kind of weird. I was almost thinking this might lift up off of here and reveal something. But if it's going to lift off there, it's going to take more than me just reaching down with my hand. I'd need probably something to pry this up with. That's odd. I'm going to have to remember that for the future and come back and see what the heck that is. I'm going to bring something back here and see what's in there. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's definitely hollow. Did I find somebody's stash, cache, bug out location, hole in the ground? I don't know. That's odd. It's a slightly odd location. Well, not really, I guess. These are oaks, and there is quite a few fallen twigs and stuff around, but that's a little cinnabar chanterelle. I'm not gonna pick it because there's only one, but oh, here's another one. Another little cinnabar. The easy way to tell the chanterelles is they have false gills. You look at the gills and they look somewhat like regular gills on like a store-bought button mushroom, but if you look close at them, you'll see that they are actually more like little ridges, and they sort of fan out towards the end, towards the edge of the cap. They branch off. The false gills do, somewhat like a creek or a river would, and that's a very distinct characteristic of the chanterelle, both the common chanterelle and the cinnabar chanterelle. Well, yeah, it was just those two chanterelles. Now that I think about it, I found about I think 15 or maybe 30 cinnabar chanterelles in here 1 year before. They like these oak trees. And these are some variety of red oak. I've also noticed that if you got some pine mixed in, the cinnabars seem to like that too, but they pretty much just like the oaks, and they seem to like a lot of dead matter on the ground. Leaves, and especially twigs and branches. It seems like every place I find the cinnabar chanterelles, there's lots of small little twigs and branches scattered all over the forest floor. And you know, I know you're gonna say, oh well, there's little twigs and branches scattered over every forest floor. Well, yeah, there is, but there's more than usual where the cinnabars grow. That's what I've noticed. And it's pretty consistent from county to county. I probably hunt about 5 or 6 different counties on a somewhat regular basis here in southern Michigan. And they're all different, you know, even though they're not that far apart, you know, each little area has its own unique environment and has its own unique plants, animals, and mushrooms. You know, for example, the one woods I hunt is predominantly white oak, and they grow really tall and straight with very few lower branches in this particular woods. And there's hardly any undergrowth or any other variety of trees. It's pretty much predominantly white oak. And that woods is just full, chock full of gray squirrels. And gray squirrels actually have a little bit better flavor and are generally more tender than the fox squirrels are around here. Because the fox squirrels, I think they tend to live in more rural places, and you know, who knows what they get into and eat. And being more rural, they probably tend to live longer because there's no predators. You know, a squirrel in town doesn't have any real predators except for the occasional hawk, if at all. So he can live a long time and get nice and tough for you. And then, you know, get some nasty disease and fumble around and die some horrible slow death in his old age. A lot of people think hunting is a bad thing, you know, and it's wrong to kill animals and stuff. And I mean, I kind of feel that way myself, you know. I don't like killing things. I think squirrels are kind of cute, actually, and so are rabbits, but you know, they are food. And part of the natural process of the world is for, you know, us to eat animals. Whether it was meant to be that way in the beginning or not, it really doesn't matter now. That's the way it is. And you know, if we don't eat animals, then they just, you know, if we don't control their population in any way whatsoever, they get overpopulated, and then they get sick and they start getting diseases. It actually is beneficial to nature and to the animals and stuff, and to us, you know, to hunt and fish and harvest from the wild. It just helps keep things in balance, you know, in a world that is pretty far off balance. More cinnamars right out in the bleached out oak leaves of the, I think they're trying to recreate an oak savanna here. I believe they burned this area to get rid of all the undergrowth, and they probably cut out some certain invasive non-native shrubbery and stuff, and they're trying to restore the oak savanna, which I guess we had a lot of here in Michigan. It just doesn't seem like we would now. I mean, everything these days seems so thick and grown up and swampy, and there's not a whole lot of really mature woods around it. It's just hard to picture that there were huge areas like this. when city folk first started coming to southern Michigan, and it was around the time when the car first came out, you know, the Model T or Model A, I guess it was, I don't know. And they were just amazed that they could just basically drive right through the forest with their cars, because it was all open like this. It was all big oaks and nice and open, and you could just walk right through the woods. And when I heard that, I was just amazed, because that just seems so opposite of what we have here today, except for this. But this was actually artificially created by man by burning out the understory and leaving just the oaks. And probably by planting some certain grasses, maybe. Although they didn't get rid of all the autumn olive. I don't think they can get rid of it. This just grows like weeds. But they're good. But I'll tell you what, I did notice a lot more of the autumn olives this year are bitter. They're a lot more bitter than they were last year. So if you watched my video last year about the autumn olive and how I said it was so yummy and sweet and kind of tart, and you're anxiously awaiting to try and find some this year, now's the time to get them. They're just getting ripe, and but you may notice that they're awful bitter, and I don't know what to tell you about that. Maybe it's because we had a real dry July, or maybe it's because we've had a lot of extra rain here in August and September, but they definitely seem more bitter than what they were last year, even from the same bush. I'm gonna head on out. I got my raincoat in the car. All I'm wearing right now is my, well, I don't know if you can see me. Can't reach it out that far, but got my little poly fleece on. Hoodie. And it's not cutting it with all this rain. We're really getting hammered now. It's coming down big time, but there's a lot of mushrooms out here I want to check back on. This is a Rusula. It's kind of pink and red in color. I think that might be an edible. And there was another big group of Lactarius mushrooms back in there I want to get a closer look at, but just went through a big old spider web. Lots of different mushrooms out here, some sort of cliticide mushroom. But I'm gonna get back and get my raincoat. Maybe hopefully this will settle down a little bit. Come back out and do a little more. I don't know, I think I'm toast for the day here. The rain let up a little bit, but it got darker and now it's starting to pick up again. I can go out in it, but my camera can't. I think my camera's slurped up all the water it can handle for one day. I already had to send it in once. That wasn't for water damage though, that was probably from shot. Oh well, anyway, I got some nice see here. I got some nice bluets for the day. Probably 3 or 4 pounds. And oh, it's so dark. I don't think you can see that. Nice bag of hedgehog mushrooms. Hidden repandum. Maybe 6-7 pounds of mushrooms for about a half hour's picking. Not too bad. Could have picked a lot more if I wanted hens. Could have picked a lot more if I could have stayed out in this. But I like to get some more different mushrooms on video if I can. And get some nice pictures of them too if possible. It's a little tricky when it's raining like this. Get one little bitty speck of rain on the lens of the camera and it throws off your pictures. Yeah, I think this is it. I'll head home and clean these mushrooms I got up, and I'll probably dry the bluets, and I'm gonna fry some of these hedgehogs up. So man, I get on out there, rain or shine, and put those ID skills to the test and see if you can't find some fall mushrooms. It's you know, in many areas I'm pretty sure it's a really good season for mushrooms, and you don't have to find anybody's special secret spot or nothing. All you gotta do is walk out there and look and you'll find them. You know, find some oak trees, find some open grassy areas that haven't been sprayed to death with pesticides and herbicides. Well, that's it. I'm out of here. Mother Nature keeps messing with me. Every time I get in my car, the rain lets up. When I get out, it starts pouring. Everything's so saturated. If you're in the woods, you still get soaked because the rain has already soaked the trees. Well, I stayed pretty dry, but I'm done for the day. I got me about 5 pounds of bluets and 2 or 3 pounds of sweet tooth or hedgehogs, whichever you want to call them. Go home and fry them hedgies up and get those bluets dried out. Talk to you later. Man, big old deer just run across the road. Looked like it might have been a doe, so thought there might have been some more right here. This looks like a spot where they probably crossed it. Yeah, here it is. It's, you know, about a half hour before dark right now. That's when I see them the most. thought we might see some more active here, but